How did it feel just to be back here after that long break and be able to get the result?
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier this week, where the guys had nothing to play for, but they were sharp every single day. It's not always easy to gauge where they're at physically. And I think in the second half we had a bit of tired legs. But really proud of the way we approached the first half. And I think created a lot of good opportunities, imposed ourselves on the game. And just really proud of the effort and the commitment from the guys. Obviously there's some pressure on the group. We got 6 games left now, and we got to almost win out, right? And so it's not the easiest thing for a relatively young team to kind of take on. But what I'm really proud of how they hung in there. A lot of set pieces at the end. It wasn't easy, but they found a way. And I think, down the stretch and into the playoffs, you got to find ways to win games. And tonight they showed a lot of bravery, a lot of character, and I'm really proud of the guys.
You mentioned the pressure and the not many games left. You've got 3 games in 8 days this week, 2 against LAFC coming up. How are you approaching just that congestion that might be there?
Well, again, I think we'll get some guys back hopefully this week. Diogo will get fitter with a bit more time. He's been out for since we last played Minnesota. But I think the most important thing is to make sure that we recover the right way, and then we take on a very good LAFC team. But we're playing them at home, and so the onus is on us to attack the game the right way. And I think going back and looking at the film from the first half in particular, how we want to approach it, what the mindset should be like, and we got to find ways to get maximum points in these next few games to keep the momentum going. And I think this league's a streaky league. And when you put forth a performance like tonight where you had a lot of quality and control in the first half, in the second half you saw a lot of tenacity and grit and resilience. I think the combination of those two things are going to be necessary in the rest of the games moving forward. So, again, just really happy for the group. It wasn't easy, time to prepare for this game, but they did a great job.
What adjustments did you guys emphasize this week that made that difference tonight?
We just keep building on what we've done. We don't change things and throw things out the window because we don't get results. We keep working. I think there's always details and nuance into the way we want to play, and so we focused a lot on our, like I said, our box defending. And I think the guys did a great job. We talked about making sure we get numbers in the box, so our box attacking. The guys did a great job of that tonight. And I think when you control when you win those areas, more times than not, you're going to win the game. And I think set pieces was another area that we worked on in those last few weeks. And tonight we took on more than what we'd like, but the guys handled themselves the right way. So the work that we do is always a continuation, a layer upon layer upon layer. And I think we were able to get some really good understanding of the details and the nuances of the different phases, and the guys executed tonight.
And then did you feel like the group showed that urgency required for a playoff push tonight?
I think so. I think the crowd was electric tonight. I think when you step in and the weather gets a little bit cooler, it's like you're not even conscious. It's subconscious, but it's a real. There's something on this game. It was palpable, and I think the guys. Again, every game's going to have its flow. Who scores first, when you score, how you score. I think SKC is a difficult team, given where they're at. You don't know how they're going to approach the game, whereas you'll have a better idea with the rest of the teams moving forward. You're vying for playoff spots, and where they're at in the table. So I think they'll approach the game a little differently than tonight.
Hey Pablo, congrats on the win. You're looking sharp tonight.
Thank you.
So my question is, in the second goal, I just want to...
By the way, let me stop you there. This is the one thing I can control.
You're controlling very well right now.
Yeah.
Let me start over. So on the second goal, I kind of want to talk to you. Was that something more that you practiced throughout the week, or was that just opportunistic that Catranes was there?
No, that's been a main point of emphasis for us. Because if we have Gozo with the ball, we should have a 10, 1, we should have Victor, and we should have Alex in the box, right? And that's something and that's why that position for us needs to be subbed, because defensively it's a left back. It's not a left wing back. And so there's a lot of running. But the commitment to score goals, we found ourselves in a lot of situations where we didn't have that back post player. But having said that, the execution from Gozo to get the ball there, and Alex, the willingness to be in that spot, and then obviously the finish was fantastic. So these are game model situations that we go through, and like I said, we've been working on the boxes, and that's been a point of emphasis over the last few weeks.
My other question is the opposite of that. Is, were there any moments late in the game where you felt the team was under risk, and how did you communicate to maintain composure on that?
Yeah, it's hard. I think the guys felt a little bit of pressure, and obviously, the interesting thing about soccer is when a team has nothing to lose, in other words, you're already down and it's late in the game, they're willing to play even numbers in the back or even minus players in the back, right? And so what they're trying to do is obviously flood your box. When you have control of the game and you break lines, oftentimes you'll find yourself on a 2v2 or a 2v3 in these situations. Your eyes get big and you go for the goal. Now, if you don't capitalize on that, we are playing into their hands. So in other words, teams that are behind the score want transition moments because they have a lot of numbers up ahead. Teams that are with the lead want complete control. So again, I think it's a learning process for us where it might be 2v2, but we want to bring our whole team forward. We don't want to go to goal. We want to get control of the game again. And I just felt like in the second half we weren't able to get that control. So with Diogo going in, I said let's try to get control of the game. And there was a couple moments where we did that, and then we gave away a bad pass. And then now it's transition again, right? So I think again there's a lot to take away from the second half of this game. Having said all that, rarely does it go the way you plan it or the way you communicate it, because there's so much emotion in it. And for us, the emotion piece is we have 7 games to go, and we needed to win this one at home. And that adds a lot to the decision-making, the fatigue, and the pressure that existed in the game tonight.
My last question is, Diego scored back again since May in the league. Was that a little bit of relief for him because he has a lot of pressure for the kind of caliber player he is?
Yeah, I had a chat with Diego yesterday, and I think the most important thing is that, one of the things that makes Diego a fantastic player is not only what he does with the ball and scoring goals and assisting, but the work he did tonight defensively for the team. And I think in the first half he made so many great plays defensively. And when you do that, you're just engaged in the game. You're not thinking about, I didn't get the ball here, or I didn't score there, or I didn't get the assist there. You are just you're in the present, And I think tonight he played in the present. He got in the box, which is where he does all his damage. And I couldn't be happier for the young man who's been, there's been a lot of pressure heaped on him, not just from our team, but obviously the national team. And to have him have such a complete performance tonight, I couldn't be more proud.
Two assists tonight for
Sorry, go ahead.
2 assists tonight for Gozo. Did you know that he had kind of that playmaking ability and then being able to flip the field horizontally like he did, or is that just another layer that's kind of being added to him?
It is, and I'd attribute that to confidence. Gozo, even when he first got his starts, he was a very one-dimensional player. In other words, going to the end line and trying to cross it. Now, as he's grown through the season, when he comes inside, he becomes a threat as well. And so teams have to play him a little bit more honestly. And again, I think it's just Gozo playing with a lot of confidence, and almost he's grown right before our eyes. I think there's moments where he's still hurrying some decisions, but the 2 decisions that he made tonight, won us the game. So, credit to Gozo and his humility to keep learning, and his execution tonight was fantastic.
DJ and then Trevor.
Can I ask you about Cabral again? Those 2 saves he made back-to-back, the single one sitting down on Jovic, who has 17 goals. He'd be nowhere with that guy game after game.
What do you want me to say to that? I agree with you. No, he's been top. He's been top, top leader, top human, top player, and you need these type of performances, especially down the stretch where, we don't make he doesn't make those saves. We don't win the game. It's that simple. He's been a beast. I'm grateful that he's going to be with the club for quite some time. I think he imparts so much of who he is on the rest of the locker room as well, and his work ethic is second to none. And at his age, to be able to do what he does day in and day out in training is a reflection of what he's able to do in the games. It's no secret that he's this good. It isn't, and that's what I keep trying to communicate to the players. He's the first one out, he's the last one to leave, and he'll take shots from anyone at any time. There's no ego. It's about the team, and just again another fantastic performance from Hoffa tonight.
Having said that, there was a moment of confusion with him and Vera, and it kind of put the team in a difficult situation. They clearly had a conversation about it, but it was reminiscent of Glad and Cabral having a moment of miscommunication and giving up a corner that Minnesota scored on. What is going on in those moments? And you talk about training these moments. What can you do to train that one? Because it's happened a couple times.
Yeah, no, I think every moment's different. I think communication is critical in these moments. I think awareness from more so the back line. So between awareness and communication, you've got to be able to solve those situations because you can't mimic that exact play because it's going to show up differently in every time the ball rolls. It's going to be different, right? So I think just better communication and better awareness will help solve that. But again, I think yeah, you're absolutely right. The last couple of games, it's been an issue.
What was the game plan for dealing with Joveljic? Because although he did get a couple opportunities, it did seem for like long stretches of the game he was frustrated he wasn't able to get on the ball.
The game plan is the same whenever we play against one striker. Nothing really changes. Obviously, they're split between, but depending on where we are in the field, we're more zonal, and then when we get closer to the goal, then one of our center backs have to latch on. And I think Jay and Ver did a good job neutralizing them for large portions of the game. But again, goal scorers will find ways to get good opportunities like he did in the second half.
Wolf hasn't played in a long time, and you subbed him in late in a critical game of the playoff race in a one-goal game. What gave you the confidence in him? What have you seen?
Because I say what I mean, and I mean what I say when I say training's the most important part. In the last 3 weeks, we give out a belt every day after training, and Wolfie's won more belts than anyone else on the team, right? And so the what he's shown to the rest of the group, not just me, it's not just me, it's the belief that the group has in Wolfie as well. He's been scoring goals, he's been defending for the team, and when you have a player in that run of form, you want to put him out in the field. So again, it was a tough situation for him to come in tonight, but I think he held his own, made some really good plays, and again, definitely a player that we're leaning on as we head down the stretch.
After you got the second goal, the club played out of the back for a while, and it didn't go well on several possessions, and then with about 10 minutes to go, everything was just played long, and I didn't know if that's a call Cabral makes back to his veteran leadership, or if you said something from the sideline.
Nope, that's all Hoffa and feeling the game. I think because oftentimes what happens if the coach decides that, he's operating from a place of fear, right? Because get it out of here. But if they feel confident in what they're doing, so that one goal kick where Jay Glad sprinted back, boom, and now we got control of the game again. So we work those plays, but it's ultimately up to Rafa to feel the emotion of the game. More importantly, to feel the emotion of the center backs. Are they comfortable if I play out here? Of our pivots moving real good? Because again, if our back line and our pivots aren't moving and aren't playing with a lot of confidence, there could be some fatigue. So it's more of what he feels, and I think tonight he made some really good decisions in that regard.
Strikers are here for goals, we all know that, but at 6'3", Olatunji seems to be a target that Cabral's picking out, and Olatunji seems to, he's running around, looping around guys, trying to get body off the ball. It seems like he puts a lot of himself into that part of the game.
He does. He's such a willing worker for the team. So even when he's not scoring goals, he is a focal point of our attack. He's a focal point of our pressing, set pieces, the way he handles set pieces. He's just an all-around fantastic footballer. And I think tonight, he had a couple good looks at goal. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a big-time scorer for us.
Lastly, it looked like Cruz was more comfortable and more confident playing sideline to sideline and from midfield to the 6-yard box. Did the 3 weeks help him?
I think so. And again, that's the toughest thing, DJ, is to kind of explain how difficult it is to come to a new team with the expectations that these guys have on them, given where we are in the table, right? Like, we don't have time. But in real life, it takes time to adjust. It takes time to feel confident, to understand the tactics, where my players move. Tonight was the best Juan's played, whether it's been in training or in a game. But you see it developing in training over the course of the last 3 weeks, where he's getting into great spots, he's scoring goals, and I thought his link play tonight was excellent.
Lastly, the sartorial choice, was that like you sending a message, it's fall, we're stepping up our game, I'm stepping up mine, or was that your wife just picked it out and so here you go?
This?
Yeah.
The yellow is for Child Cancer Night.
And the coat?
And the coat is just it's a cool coat.
Hey, Pablo. I wanted to ask about the integration of Victor and Juan into the attack. It seems like it's much easier and it just happens more often where the ball's just getting forward much faster. And I guess the question is that a symptom of just different personnel, different talents up front, different styles of play up front, or is that more of a tactical change?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think it's both, right? I think in order to make our attacking players dangerous, get them involved in the game, we need to be more vertical in the way we look at the game. Not vertical like launching it, but it's been a really it's been a focal point of ours in the last 3 weeks for our pivots. And I think you saw Brian and Emeka probably found our Victor and Juan in great spots. Whereas before in the past, they were playing a lot of lateral balls. So we'd come up the field slow because they'd play it to the outside back, and then to get it again, then they'd play it to Brian, and we'd go sideways. And so a big focal point of ours is, as you're waiting for the ball, you've got to know where your 10s are. So in this case, it'd be Luna and Juan. And I think they did a fantastic job of doing that. So now we can turn the table, we can play Gozo out wide, we can play Alex out wide, and we can now get our shape behind the ball. So it's been deliberate, but a big part of that is if we want our attackers to be to cause a lot of threat against our opponents, we've got to get them the ball in dangerous areas, and I think they did a good job of that tonight.
Another question I had, and I don't know if it's just me looking for things, so tell me if I'm right here, but it seemed, and it happened more often in the first half, it seemed like Vera was getting forward a lot more,
Yep.
a lot more involved in the attack. He had
Yep.
a couple shots.
Yep.
And I was wondering if that was a game-specific plan, or if that's just Vera feeling the game, or is that you guys not really worrying so much about like a transition?
Yeah. No.
To like, because it didn't seem like they ever really they got behind once or twice when Vera did push forward, but they didn't really seem to punish you.
Yeah.
For it.
No, another great question, and another area of our focus the last few weeks is, and it really has to do with Diego staying in the turning box. So it's a center back, outside back, a winger, and a pivot. And if he stays in that turning box, what ends up happening is it pushes up our pivots in positions to receive the ball from Alex, which then pushes Vera higher up. If our 10s pop off, that means our pivots are further behind. That means Vera's further behind. So it's a knockdown effect. So we want Diego to be in that position because that's where he's dangerous, right? So then naturally, if he's staying there and he's running the half space, it'll pull your pivot forward. And that's what we've been wanting, to play more vertical and to create more chances on goal. And so as Diego runs the half space, naturally it's going to pull the pivot higher up, which now Vera's got to move with the ball. And so now he's in a position where he can cross it half space, but now we have a pivot, we have a 10, and we have our wing back in that position with Vera on the ball. And those are things that we've been repping. And I think tonight there's a lot, like you said, in the first half in particular, there's a lot of good opportunities that came from those moments. And even when we rotate the ball, our group is more compact. So if Emeka stays high and Vera stays back, now you have gaps. And gaps in our attack lead to transition, because if someone picks up the ball in that spot, now it's going the other way. But if Vera's pushed up to the next guy, Jay Glad's marking, Noel's pinched in, we feel like we have a good enough rest defense to be able to thwart any kind of counter going the other way.
Pablo, congratulations on the win. What do you see in the team tonight and in general that gives you confidence in the next 2 games against LAFC that are on the other end of the table as SKC? And what gives you concern?
What gives me belief is the way the guys are executing, the way the guys are fighting for each other, the way the guys are solving problems on the field. I think, again, I always say this to the group, is like our biggest opponent is ourselves. Because I feel like if we play the way we did in the first half, regardless of what name you put out there as a rival for the weekend, I feel like we can compete and win the game, right? And obviously, LAFC is a great team. They're flying at the moment, but again, I think the moment you start focusing on your opponent and that becomes the object of your attention, then you start to second guess yourself. What we talk about is we got to get one day better as a team. We got to get one day better as an individual. And these last 3 weeks have shown me that there's some really good understanding in areas that we were deficient heading into that 3-week break, and I feel like we can continue to hold ourselves to a higher standard than we did tonight. But I think again, the belief that the guys have in themselves is what gives me belief as a coach.
Pablo, tal vez la última. En el pasado has tenido mucho éxito la combinación que tenía Vera, Gómez, Chicho, Julio y todos ellos. Tanta gente estaba reclamando que Vera debería saltar líneas como lo hacía con Gómez y lo hacía exacto. Y este partido hemos visto unas 2 jugadas donde se han puesto en aprietos alcanzas, donde Vera lanzaba pasos exactos a Gozo que muy bien se llegaba, pero no se concretaba, tal vez porque todavía no se encuentran Víctor y Ruan. Pero ¿es planeado o de pronto salió de Vera?
No, yo creo que para este partido, como la línea defensiva siempre se movía al lado del balón demasiado, siempre había el espacio en el lado débil para encontrar el diagonal. Y esa es una táctica para este partido que vimos cuando vimos el video de Kansas City. Pero yo creo que lo hizo muy bien Vera, y por un tema técnica de Gozo en una jugada no logramos el máximo de esa jugada. Pero yo creo que con todos los equipos que tienen una línea de 4 que se rotan al lado del balón, siempre vamos a tener esa opción.
So he mentioned that before Vera would have a lot of success with Gomez hitting the long diagonal ball right to his feet. That we hadn't seen it as much, but tonight that we saw that from Vera to Gozo, if that was kind of part of the plan. But Pablo said that the defensive line of Kansas would just shift to wherever the ball was sideways, and so the backside was always open to hit that diagonal. And obviously Gozo had one that didn't work out because Rowan and Olatunji are still working there, but that was just kind of how the game fell out. Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pablo.